It's a great honor to be here, to be speaking together with Eduardo on the stage. So Eduardo has more than 25 years of experience in the mining and metals industry, covering a number of metals like aluminium, iron ore, coking coal. He also has done corporate strategy. He's also responsible for Vale's market intelligence efforts and also the country manager here in Singapore. So actually, before we start, I'd like to set a bit of context for the discussion. We all know that the iron ore industry has been in the throes of change for at least for the past decade now. The surge of demand for iron ore has been driven by strong steel demand out of countries like China and increasingly now also India, as well as Southeast Asia. These countries continue to rely heavily on steel production with an estimated 2.2 billion tons of iron ore needed to meet global demand by the year 2050. But looking ahead, there are several trends shaping the iron ore industry in the years ahead. Some of them include volatile pricing environment, geopolitical factors, demand and supply. Shifts in demand patterns could impact prices in the future, as well as shifts in demand patterns for various grades of iron ore. There's also the low-grade market. Whenever steelmaking margins are lower, you tend to see the low-grade market coming back into the picture. This is low-grade iron ore fines is also gaining attention by the market due to innovations in beneficiation technology, as well as demand for environmentally friendly steel. The next big factor that I'd like to touch on will be India's rising imports of iron ore. As a major steel producer, India is ramping up its iron ore imports. And not just these factors come into play. I think Mr. Eduardo here is very well placed to talk to us about decarbonization and what are the major trends that are expected to follow, since it's probably his bread and butter every day. Yeah. Decarbonization is also an investment opportunity, $1 trillion investment opportunity. And is it really all based off hydrogen, DRI, and EAF-based technology? Given the fact that Asia is such a huge base of blast furnace production. I think Eduardo will also be very well placed to tell us a little bit more about high-grade mines and green pelletizing capacities, as well as low-carbon technologies. He'll also be telling us a little bit more about China's EAF growth and how can China successfully transition into an EAF-intensive steelmaking industry. Yeah. So, Eduardo, as we are at kind of like a crossroad of iron ore and steel, so given your very unique position, and as well as your outlook on decarbonization as both a challenge and an opportunity, maybe we can start with the first question. How does the steel industry plan to achieve decarbonization by 2050, especially if you take into account the various stages that are needed, as well as the scope 1 to 3 emission requirements?
Hi, Paul. Thanks a lot for the invitation to join this panel. It's really an honor to be here on this stage. Regarding the decarbonization, I think we can mention these 3 steps that you commented. It's an easy way to facilitate the explanation. And as you pointed out, it's not going to be an easy journey, right? So more than $1 trillion are expected to help the steel industry decarbonize. So far, we have seen more than 70 countries already announcing net zero targets. But when you see the roadmaps for these countries or regions, you see a lot of divergence. For example, Europe is clearly leading the way. But there are countries announcing targets for 2050, 60, or even 70, right? Of course, different timings and different needs, right? And the industry, of course, is not going to follow maybe one single approach, right? So there will be different approaches. But something that we believe it's, will take place is these stages or these steps in terms of how the steel industry will decarbonize. I'm going to quickly explain these points. So first of all, we see one initial step that will probably be focused on operational efficiency. So this is a stage where steel mills, they will, of course, prioritize the usage, the best usage of their existing assets, right? For example, they will try to increase the use of high-grade ores. They will try maybe to maximize scrap usage. And of course, the ultimate goal for this is to avoid capex. So I think steel mills will try to prioritize and try to postpone as much as they can, maybe the capex, right, in this regard. So this would be probably the first step. The second step, and by the way, this first step, it's important also to mention that even though steel mills are not expected to replace capacity, there is still some potential to reduce CO2 emissions, up to 15%. So, for example, by shifting from lower grades to higher grades, you can get a lower CO2 footprint. So there is something to be done even in this initial stage. And the products that we are offering also bode very well to this scenario. Second step would be a situation or a moment when we start to see new technologies taking place, right? Not yet based on green hydrogen. And there's a stage where we'll see the steel industry shifting their capacity, for example, from the blast furnace BOF route to DR EAF route. So then there will be a time where the steel industry, they can no longer postpone these investments. They will have to do. There was an interesting point from Raju in the beginning this morning when he mentioned that 40 million tons of EAFs in Europe and also 21 million tons of DRI are coming on stream in the next year. So this is a good example. Since Europe is leading the trend, of course, they are rushing and they are already announced these investments. And on this second stage, so assuming that, for example, you shift from your blast furnace to DRI, EAF-based production, right, using, of course, high-quality metallics, this might enable you to reduce up to 60% of CO2 emissions. So that's a big reduction. And the third step would be later on. It's going to be a long future, but there'll be a point where the green hydrogen will be available, right? And this will enable the development of technologies, for example, electrolysis, right? And this will be the ultimate moment when the steel industry will probably be able to reach and to close this CO2 roadmap, so from 60 to final 100% CO2 reduction. So this is how we see, this is how it also helps our plan. And of course, we are focusing now more on stages 1 and 2, right, concurrently. And some of our product offerings, I think they are very suitable for these trends. As I mentioned, for example, on step 1, we have IOCJ, we have BRBF, we have also blast furnace agglomerates that are very good products for that purpose. And of course, for step 2, we have, of course, our direct reduction pellets, and we have, of course, the briquettes that my colleague Eduardo Melo Franco mentioned before. I'm going also to give more details later, but this is another product that it's very good for that purpose. And of course, the strategy that we're developing, the mega hubs, right? So this is something also that is exactly being planned in order to support the customer's needs and enhance the customer centricity of Vale.
Yeah, okay, so maybe just to add on to my question, I think we covered basically scope 1 and maybe up to scope 2, but if you are talking about scope 3, maybe the downstream sectors, the end-use sectors, maybe like construction, automotive, do you feel that there is kind of like a tiered demand for low-carbon steel and low-carbon steel-making raw materials within these segments? Yeah, are you able to share more on that?
Yeah, sure, Paul. The demand is definitely there, and we see it growing as we speak. So steel mills, they have been very vocal in terms of the requests from the customers, right? So we have several cases in construction, in automotive, machinery, right? So this is reported in Asia, in Europe, in America. So it's really a global trend, right? And of course, since they have been receiving these requests from the customers, of course, the steel industry comes to us, and of course, they request more quality, better products, and solutions that will help them to decarbonize. Just to recap one point which is important, Paul, Vale we do have Scope 3 targets. So we have a target to reduce up to 15%, 15, by 2035, right? So, and in line with this goal, we have two main pillars in our strategy. So number one would be the development and innovation in low carbon products. That's exactly where the iron ore briquette fits in. So this is a technology that was developed by Vale. This has taken around 20 years of research and development. This is done by Vale. It's a technology patented by Vale. And we have just commissioned our first briquette plant in Vitória, in the Tubarão site in Brazil. And the second one is coming on stream this year. And both plants 1 and 2 in Tubarão, they have a combined capacity of 6 million tons per year. And on top of this development and innovation of new low-carbon products, so of course, the briquettes, as Eduardo Melo mentioned before, so we have several advantages in terms of lower, the process itself is much less carbon intensive, so it can save up to 80% of carbon emissions compared to the traditional pelletizing process. We also have of course, advantages in terms of lower SOx and NOx. And an interesting point is that if you use these pellets, for example, in these briquettes, in a blast furnace, it can lead to up to 10% in carbon emissions. So this is interesting for a steel mill viewpoint because they are not investing in CapEx. So there's no CapEx involved. It's basically shifting from one product that has a higher CO2 intensity to another one with a low intensity, such as the briquette. So that would be the first pillar. The second one would be exactly partnerships in the supply chain. So I think we already mentioned that we have developed partnerships with customers all across the globe in all regions, right? And these partnerships nowadays account for 35% of our Scope 3 emissions. And just to put this in perspective, this is the same amount of CO2 as of New Zealand today. So it's really the big amount, and we are already discussing with our partners on ways to help them decarbonize, right? And a very important component of this second pillar is exactly our mega hubs, right? So what is exactly a mega hub? So just to summarize, so these are industrial complexes where we plan to concentrate the iron ore in order to improve its quality. We want to produce the briquettes. And at the same sites, our partners will be developing HBI facilities. So this is pretty much the concept of a mega hub. And I think the beauty about the mega hub is that it marks a paradigm shift in the way we do business. Because we are doing this together with our customers. So we're discussing with them about the project implementation, about investments. It's really done in a very strong partnership with our customers. So that's something that I think it's really an important change, right? And that's exactly what we are pursuing. So to be closer to the customers and, of course, develop solutions that will help them. And also, of course, we are together in this journey because we also have this Scope 3 in our targets.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so maybe the next question, why is high-grade iron ore crucial for green hydrogen-based DRI processes? So I think previously some of the panelists also spoke about natural gas versus hydrogen-based iron ore production or pellet production. There is still a lot of discussion around this topic, economic viability, feasibility, usage of the DRI feedstock itself. Yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Paul, we believe that green hydrogen is something that probably will come at a later stage, right? So, and of course, we are anticipating that trend and we are preparing ourselves for that moment. But for now, we believe that the industry will shift towards the direct reduction, the EAF. And by the way, by shifting into this direction, it's already up to 60% of CO2 emissions. So that's a significant reductions in CO2. And the current direct reduction route, of course, is a technology that has been there for more than 50 years. The technology totally proven, right? So it's scalable, right? So it's something that it's reliable, and we believe that at least for the time being, we should see that technology gaining more momentum, and of course, we have Europe now with more than 20 million tons of capacity coming on stream. Middle East, so of course we are investing there, and other partners are also joining these initiatives, and we have other players as well. So this is a trend that we see going forward and becoming stronger.
Yeah, so maybe if I just go back to something that you said, because you mentioned a lot of capacity for DRI coming on stream in Europe and other parts of the world. Will there be any factor which may slow down this rate of new capacity?
Yes, we commented in the beginning that we see a very tight market, right? Actually, a deficit of possibly up to 70 million tons by 2030, right? So this, of course, could be a bottleneck in terms of that trend to materialize. But I'd like to take this opportunity, Paul, to maybe to comment on another angle of our strategy, which is exactly on what we're doing in terms of both capacity expansions, right, and also in terms of beneficiations that we are implementing. So let me start with the capacity outlook, the production outlook. So right now, Vale is expanding. We are expanding our capacity in Brazil through 3 mines, as we mentioned before. So just to give a little bit more detail on these expansions, we have Vargem Grande. This is adding 15 million tons by the 4th quarter of this year, and it's very advanced at 89% of physical progress. The other one is Capanema. We have 15 million tons as well. This is with 74% of physical progress, and the plan is to commission this next year. Last but not least, we have also the plus 20 in Serra Sul, S11D, and with that one, we are aiming to bring to the market in the second half of 2026. The physical progress on the mine site is 68%, and the physical progress on the compact crushing is 33%. So we have these initiatives going on in order to further leverage our supply of high-grade ores. And something that we believe it to be crucial, especially as we advance in our mega hub strategy, is exactly to have the more supply, of course, of rich and direct reduction pellet feeds. In that way, we are investing in beneficiation, and we have several fronts. I'll comment quickly on them here. Something which, of course, is very important to mention is that we are doing a lot of work in terms of tailings filtration, right? So we have 4 tailings filtration plants in Brazil right now, which can dry stack the tailings, and this reduces, of course, the need for tailing dams. So this combined, we have these 4 plants combined have a capacity of 64 million tons. Okay, this is in Brucutu, Itabira, and Vargem Grande. We also have, we are increasing the dry concentration. Again, to give just the number here, just to make it clear. In 2023, 78% of our production was based on dry processing methods. 10 years ago, 2014, it was only 40%, so that was a significant increase. But of course, since we are, the market is really pushing us for more and more quality, right? So, and now we have to seek for alternative ways to concentrate and other solutions to concentrate the iron ore. So what are we planning? One, which is important to mention, is that we have third-party concentrations in China, okay? The second one is that we are studying ways to concentrate Carajás. And the third one, we are also planning concentration in Sohar, right? So, and this concentration in Sohar is expected to have production capacity ranging from 12 to 15 million tons. Okay, so that's some of the initiatives we are bringing in order to help reduce this gap, and of course also help us accelerate also our own strategy, right? Because we need these feeds for the mega hubs and the briquettes themselves.
Yep. Okay. So while we go into the topic of DRI processors, technicalities of it, so DRI processors typically demand iron ore with at least 67% purity, 67% Fe. So how can miners or even the iron ore industry ensure a consistent supply of high-grade ores to support decarbonization?
Yes, we believe in this trend, as we already mentioned, and in order to support the market needs and of course to help our customers, we are doing all these investments, and the ultimate goal for us is to increase the share of direct reduction agglomerates. So just to highlight what is the plan for Vale, nowadays the share of direct reduction agglomerates, it's only 6% of our total portfolio, okay? But with all these investments in beneficiation and the expansion of our mines in Brazil, we plan to reach 16% of direct reduction agglomerates in our portfolio by 2030. That's something important to highlight. On top of that, Paul, we also, as my colleague Eduardo mentioned before, we are also planning to have a higher average Fe content from our global portfolio. Last year, our global portfolio, we had an average Fe of 62.5% Fe, and this, with these innovations, and by the way, I didn't mention, but it's important to also to highlight that there are lots of innovations going on and automations, for example, in our in Carajás. So now we are starting with autonomous truck in Carajás, and we want to deploy this to 40% of our fleets out there. Also, we have here in Malaysia, just next door, the fully autonomous unloader. That's the first thing in Asia and the third in the world. So I think that's also important to highlight. Initiatives as well in terms of lowering having like a battery electric trucks. This is an announcement we've done with Caterpillar, and also ethanol trucks up to 240 tons. So it's big trucks running with friendly fuels, which again will help us reduce our CO2 footprint. So lots of things are happening, and the ultimate goal for us is to lower the footprint, scopes 1, 2, and 3, and enrich and improve the quality from 62.5 last year to 63.5 by 2026, and finally to 64% Fe from 2030 onwards.
Yeah. So maybe the last question, I think we are running a little bit late on time. So the last question, what innovative beneficiation techniques can enhance iron ore quality, especially as you have said, and the number of panelists have said that high-grade pellet feed is in tight supply, will be in tight supply in the future?
Yeah, on our side, Paul, I can of course comment on our initiatives, right, which I described before. Of course, you are aware that other technologies are being studied by other companies, right? But maybe I'm not the best person to comment on that. But on Vale's side, what I can strongly confirm is that we are doing lots of efforts, right? And I think also there's a lot of things happening, for example, in terms of operational stability in Brazil. And this is something that we of course, this is a long journey since 2019, but we believe we are a more reliable company now, and we have a clear goal to focus on safety, to being one of the most reliable and predictable mining companies. So that's something that is in our purpose today. So, but the initiatives that we have exactly are the ones that I mentioned in terms of on top of the tailings filtration and dry concentration, third-party concentration in China, Sohar concentration, and studies on Carajás concentration.
Yeah, okay. We are left with just 1 minute, and I see that we have some questions on Slido over there. So maybe one question, are you using concentrates to produce coal bonded briquettes?
Yeah, the briquettes, you actually have the flexibility to use the feed that you wish, right? So it gives a lot of flexibility. Of course, we can produce, and we are aiming to produce direct reduction concentrates. But if you have, for example, you want to produce maybe with a different feed, there's no problem, right? So we have a lot of flexibility in the process to produce with the feed that you have. Of course, we are targeting to have direct reduction briquettes because the strategy is exactly on bringing more quality to the market and following and getting together with our customers to support their needs in this journey.
Yeah, sorry. So you mentioned a variety of different feeds, right? So are you able to just share a little bit more? What are the various varieties of feed that can go into production?
No, it's pretty much flexible. So if you want, for example, to use maybe a lower grade briquettes, you can produce. So there's no restriction from a production viewpoint, right? Of course, it all depends on the end user, right? So if it prefers something with a different spec, right? But as I pointed out, for us, the priority is exactly to increase the production of the direct reduction. So in a nutshell, there would be no restriction. So if you wish to produce something with a different quality, yes, the technology allows us to do so.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Eduardo, Mr. Eduardo. So ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Eduardo Pfiffer from Vale.